Okay, so hi everyone. I'm going to try to explain very briefly how there is a surprising connection between general relativity and the spread of wildfires. So the starting point is to understand how general relativity models the propagation of light. The idea basically is that light is affected by gravity. Geometrically speaking, gravity is just a curvature of the space-time, and light simply follows this curvature. So in general, light trajectories are not straight lines, but geodesics of the space-time. Now it turns out that we can make an analogy between the light propagation and wildfire spread in the following way. We can build a space-time where the maximum velocity is not the speed of light, but the velocity of the fire at each point. And where the geometry is given not by the gravity, namely the amount of mass and energy we have in the space-time, but by all the physical conditions that affect the fire, such as the wind, the slope, the temperature, or the type of soil. This new space-time is very particular because the velocity of the fire can depend on the direction, for example, because of the wind. And there is something that doesn't happen with light. In the end, instead of having a Lorentzian spacetime, as in general relativity, we have what is called a Finsler spacetime. But the key point is that in this setting, we can still define the notion of geodesic, and these Finsler geodesics, following the analogy, now represent the trajectories of the fire. So in conclusion, we can compute the total spread of a wildfire simply by solving the geodesic equations of a certain Finsler spacetime. And the good news is that these equations are just an ordinary differential equation system, and therefore they can be easily solved using a computer. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Questions?
So light has a direction of movement, right? But the fire might be stationary in the beginning. So where do we get the direction?
What do you mean by stationary?
I mean, the fire might just be in one place. So
yeah. No, but yeah, you divide the spread in trajectories. So if you start in one point, you just compute the trajectories from all directions. You sort of select some directions, and you compute the trajectories, and from that you can infer the fire front.
Can you then use these your projects later on to identify and maybe interrupt or the wildfires?
Yeah, exactly. That's the idea. That's the idea. The problem is that in the theoretical model is based on some parameters that are like are unknown. You have to determine them by doing experimental experiments on the ground. Right? So right now it's very theoretical, but that's the idea to apply with someday.
Yes. Thank you for a very nice pitch. The task you have and all the other pitches is an impossible task because you cannot tell the whole project in 3 minutes, but I think you did really well, given the points to it. But I represent the communicator devil who is not the scientist, so I would ask other kinds of questions like, why is this important to you? Because it is important to you, it's important to me as a listener. I mean, you did super great, but if I were a journalist or someone's aunt, always relate to somehow, why is this important to you? Did you experience something? Whatever. But yeah, very nice.
Thanks a lot. Let's give Enrique a hand as well.